I want attacking, purposeful football all the time. Now we're going to have backs against the wall and we're going to fight, and we're going to fight hard. You've got to show me all the guts and all the determination you've got in your body. You've got to inspire me.
A marvellous kick. That's as good as you'll ever see. And Footscray are back in front. From inside the centre square. Boys kick the goal. Boys kick the goal. From inside the centre.
Hey Pack, welcome to Danny Boyd. It's a podcast. You probably know that. You've downloaded it. But it's about the most wonderful, the most splendiferous, just that club that makes all of your heart and other organs swell with pride. That is the Footscray Football Club, Proprietary Limited. They trade as Western Bulldogs. I'm Danny McGinlay. Tom Boyd is literally 2 metres from me. Hello, Tom.
Well, and only, about a foot from each other's toes touching, just for all of them listening.
Look, here we go.
Oh,
foot bump. There you go. For the fetish
this
people.
is the strangest way to start the podcast we've ever had. Also, you did say one word in there that I think accurately describes the 2025 Bulldogs to date, which is heart.
Yeah.
It has been a heart-filled start from our boys. They have played magnificent up against the wall with injuries and pressure and the rumour mill going through the roof about certain people, which we shall not discuss today.
Well, there's no
Well, maybe we
there.
will. Maybe we'll discuss at the end of the episode, hence a retention tool.
That's called sizzle. No, do you reckon anyone's... I don't think there's anyone who's... I think we're kind of bored of the Jamara talk now. Like every day there's a different Facebook story. Oh, he's training in a gym. Oh, he's training back. Now he's at the pub. I can't keep up. There's too much going on with the world of Trump and wars and stuff. Just... tell me when it's over.
Can I say that as opposed to other players in the AFL world who have got negative attention because people want them to fail, I think the attention surrounding Jamara predominantly comes from everyone seeing just how good that kid is at footy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is it's sort of like a longing that's causing so much of the attention in a way. And of course, there's obviously critiques about every player, but we're not talking about him today.
Anyway, we're done. That's it. That's your Jamara talk.
The first 3 games of this year have been honestly overwhelming for me watching, given that we went into the year, honestly, both of us with some interpretation about how we were going to go.
Yeah, I mean, everyone always asks me how the ball's going to go, and I say, hey, we can beat anyone on the day. We can lose to anyone on the day.
Yeah, but I think all of us sat there and said, with the way that, say, for instance, North Melbourne were improving, there was a chance with 6 serious outs that we lose. And everyone goes, the year's over already. We lost to North Melbourne. And we think, in our minds, based on the previous few years, that North Melbourne is still what West Coast apparently is at the moment, which doesn't seem to be getting much better.
Nah.
So it's been a fantastic year. And we obviously have a very special guest to dive into all of the stats, numbers, and otherwise, and basically for him to tell me all of his theories on football, which basically the way that this individual works is that he comes up with a theory and then he goes to find something to support it, which is always a bit of a fallacy.
People love these episodes with Chaz Licciardella. Great to have you along, Chaz.
Hello there.
He's biting his tongue to not join in, so I'll just introduce him so we can talk. So you've waited 3 minutes. Thank you very much. But people love these episodes. Because Chaz, you not like idiots like me will get a gut feeling, and I'll just say it on the pod. Whereas you get a gut feeling, and then you'll find some data to back it up, and then you'll come to Boydie, all wise, knowing ex-footballer Tom Boyd, and he'll go, "That's full of shit."
Yeah. I think people like hearing me getting told off.
It's sort of a fetish thing, isn't it?
Very much so. Can I just throw in one extra word? Like when you were talking about the word is heart, I'll throw in one more word for you, which I'm loving, which is consistency. Which is even against Carlton at the beginning when we weren't scoring, neither were they. Like how many times in the past, 10 years, apart from when we're absolutely flying.
At least the last 7 or 8,
Yeah, 15, 16, we'll put brackets around those 2 magical years.
Yeah. How many times apart from them were there 3 games in a row where we didn't go to sleep for at least a quarter?
Maybe 21.
Yeah, good call.
Well.
But there was that horror month around August.
But as in, the question was 3 games in a row. We for the vast majority of that year, and there was a few teams who basically were asleep for the whole year. So there was a few easy beats at you. But I agree. I think consistency, it's a real taboo word. Honestly, if you think about the vast majority of criticism targeted at Luke Beveridge and the Bulldogs of the last 8 years, it has been all about consistency. Consistency in selection, consistency in messaging, consistency in output, consistency in hairstyles, which we can touch on today if we have to, because there's a few running around that honestly, frankly, in times gone by would have been an arrestable offence, is what I would say. One of which has inspired the great Daniel Gorringe to, one, lose to Richmond, rename himself to Richmond Gorringe, which has been all over social media, and then to lose to the Western Bulldogs, and now has blue hair. Has
he done that, has he?
He has.
Nice. So he'll do whatever Rory Lobb does. Is that it?
I hope not. One person with a scorpion in the back of his head is enough.
Is that what he's done, Rory Lobb? I see headlines, but I'll be brutally honest. I don't give a flying tree full of figs what the players do with their hair. Like I just look at the headline, I go, yeah, I scroll past. But he's put a scorpion. Why a scorpion?
Oh, someone said basically, I'm not sure if we're ready for a Dennis Rodman.
Well, when we were sitting with Bob Murphy, Clang, at the Collingwood game.
It's actually a lobster, apparently, which makes it so
That makes much more sense.
How?
Because his name's Lob.
Oh, mate, this is horrendous.
Yeah, and he was called the Lobster. And like Freo made that beer, the Lobster Tears.
Okay.
So he's put it on against Freo to kind of do him. But Bob pointed out that he's got the blue in the hair to go with the blue rinse of the lovely old ladies in the cheer squad. And then, and then Bob did the classic thing, Chaz. He looked at me and he goes, "You can have that."
And you did.
Yeah, but I ain't claiming it. It's yours, Bob.
Well, and also I will say that, you know, if Rory thinks that blue hair is going to gain him favour in the old ladies of the cheer squad, that role has been taken by none other than yours truly.
Oh, really? You're the favourite of the cheer squad.
I am the favourite of all of the old ladies of the Western Bulldogs. Except for maybe Bob. Bob's got pretty good.
No, I think they're playing you, because for a second I thought you were going to say me. They love me as well. They probably love you, Chaz. They're very lovely
don't burst
people.
This bubble of mine, Danny. I use it in all of my speaking gigs. They all love it.
So Chaz and I were at the game on Friday. We okay. First of all, I'm going to say something negative about the Great Marvel Stadium. Even though I don't know if this is a Carlton thing or it's a Marvel Stadium thing, they're now not playing the same footage on the screen. So the big screens, the massive new ones, are different vision to the small screen. So I kept looking at the wrong screen trying to see a replay, and it was really frustrating every time. And here's the other
small
thing.
Screens in your chairs? Or?
No, the small screen, the old scoreboard that they still use. And this is more a Carlton thing, so this isn't dissing our lovely Marvel Stadium, but every time there's a goal, they chuck up an ad and there's no score at the bottom.
Yeah, no, not okay.
Oh, and it was constantly for grandmother ham.
Not good.
Yeah, smoked ham.
Not good for Carlton's advertisers either, really. Because if they can't see the score underneath the ad, they're going to be looking for the score on the side of the ground.
That's why the ad just said buy ham,
which is like then no one's looking because everyone's checking what the score is. Yeah, makes sense. I do feel like. So there's obviously been a bit of refurbishment happening at Marvel, and the past players room, or not the past players room, where they do the president's function, the skyline room, and that stuff.
It's amazing.
It's beautiful now. It does still feel like the actual stadium, the external to the function room, it's getting a bit tired, I reckon.
Well, you can't see it though. There's skyscrapers everywhere.
No, I'm not the outside of the stadium. Where you sit, the stands.
Oh, okay.
The stands feel a little bit tired to me. Like
they
just need a bit of a spruce up, maybe a bit of a paint job or something over the summer. That'd be nice.
I reckon
probably that costs $2 million.
I reckon you are spoilt. I reckon you need to go to the SCG one of these days, Tom. Because I'm telling you, every time I go to Marvel, it's like, this is what footy should be like.
Yeah. But see, the funny thing about the SCG is that grounds with heritage get away with being a bit worn down.
Yeah.
And I like it. Like, I think about sitting at Princess Park, and dead set, that was a tetanus risk for the most part. Sitting and I still loved it. You know, and there was certainly, as a guy who has been small his whole life, there was a few different seats or benches there that you certainly could fall through after a sort of a vigorous sit down after a poor umpiring decision or something. So don't get me wrong, I see the type, but it's more the tired modern really annoys me compared to tired old and heritage sort of style stuff.
I mean, what colours can they do it? Because it's the home to, 6 clubs. So,
Well, it's going to be neutral, obviously. Maybe they should choose, so we're in Albert Park, filming at the moment or recording at the moment. There's very strong guidelines around heritage listings here in Albert Park about what you can do to your house and all that sort of stuff. One of which is there's about 7 neutral colours you can paint your house if it's
really?
facing the street. So I think we just pick one of the 7 because it'll basically be what's accessible and available and actually appropriate for the people they're watching.
If you're talking neutral colours, when in an AFL context, you end up with a pink stadium, mate.
Or like
is that what you want?
No, it's like what's it like teal at the moment, or like turquoise, or because the MCG is like a grey brown, pretty much, isn't it?
Yeah, beige, very Soviet colours.
Yeah, see, that's fine. You know,
great.
I'm not saying
But
that
that's got heritage.
the paint job is not going to fix it. I don't know why, but it just feels a bit old in there to me. Maybe it's just a me thing. I don't know. Well, if there's enough people there, you don't see the seats. Yeah, which doesn't happen that often.
Not for us.
I often talk about. So I did a speaking gig yesterday up in the Gold Coast, and halfway through my talk, I'm talking about how challenging it was when I wasn't sleeping to play in front of like big crowds. And I often go in and say, we're playing in front of 60,000. I mean, we're playing in front of 30,000 people. I'm like, I didn't play for Collingwood. So
Surely the Gold Coast fans are just going, you got 30,000 people?
there was actually a Gold Coast fan there yesterday. And I also met a Giants fan in the flesh, in the wild,
Wow.
you could
A
say.
unicorn.
On the
And I
same
was like,
day.
yeah, there was 2 of them I met in 1 week, and I was like, "What was wrong with your childhood? You know? what made you feel like you had to change everything and go to a new
Well,
family?"
finding one on the Gold Coast, surely that's not that. That's cheating a bit.
Yeah, but they were all travelling from other places. They weren't actually from the Gold Coast. That's how
okay.
conferences
All
work.
right.
Conferences don't typically.
Is this right? Is this I don't understand your
I've
white
been on
collar
a
world.
junket for 3 days, Danny. I'll tell you all about it afterwards. We should talk about the Western Bulldogs, though. So
Sure.
I was thinking there was a couple of major ticket items. We need to get to Chaz's stats.
We
That's
will
number
soon.
one.
He's got a new theory. He's been tapping away at his laptop
There
for
is
hours.
a vein poking out of Chaz's head in
So
concentration.
we'll just get through all that we need to get through. Dolan, you talked him up pre-season,
I love
Boydie,
Dolan.
and he came on, and not the deciding factor, but a deciding factor. Like great off the boot, fresh legs. It was great to see a number 26. Reminded me of Danny Delray.
Can I make a very important perhaps point for all supporters who are listening about new draft picks, right? And what they should expect from players when they're young. So when a player comes into the league, typically speaking, they need a few things to be able to play at the top level. And I've described this before when it came to Tim English. Tim English was a really good athlete. He could run and jump and all that sort of stuff, but he was so deficient in his strength that it meant that he couldn't compete at the top level. Likewise, when you're a midfielder, you need to be strong enough that you don't just get pushed around and thrown off the ball for the most part. But if you have something that's outstanding enough athletically, like the Doctor, or what's his nickname?
Hang on, all right. Wait, finish this sentence, and then we're getting into the nickname jury.
I've demoted Dr. Ray back to an intern for the time being. In all honesty, he could be more like, he actually could be upgraded to like the what is it called? The surgeon in arms or something.
Well, doctors and surgeons are separate. I mean, we talked about this off air. The problem is Boydie's watched House and I've watched Scrubs.
Yeah,
so we're coming at it from different medical ideals.
And Chaz has watched Grey's Anatomy. So. But if you have something athletically so proficient like he does with his endurance and repeat effort running, geez, it makes you a good chance to have an impact really on.
So this is Davidson.
Oh, it's so obvious.
Yeah.
When the way he covers the ground is phenomenal.
Well, I was just going to say, I actually would like, as I don't get to watch games live often. I usually watch it on TV because I'm from Sydney. But watching live, there was what was really noticeable to me. You get a much better sense of the options they're taking live than you do on TV because you can't see the options on TV, right? And the thing that really stood out to me is when you brought up Dolan and then you moved to Davidson. I actually see them as having opposite strengths.
Yeah.
In that Davidson, his running was incredible. It just always, and it's not just the fact he's always running, it's he's always providing options.
Yep.
Like both defensive and offensive options. Like he's just everywhere all the time. But when he's under pressure, his decision making isn't fantastic.
Yep.
He does throw the ball onto the boot a bit. Whereas Dolan, he can run as well, but not like Davidson. No one can run like Davidson. But his decision making was incredible for a young'un. For an 18-year-old, you just go, like, he was always making the best decision. And you go, I
Kick it to
can't
Darcy.
wait until he's got a bit more meat on him and he's got a bit more fitness and all the rest of it. He's going to be an absolute gun because he was as a first year, he was making perfect decisions.
Yeah.
Whereas Davidson, I get the feeling he panics a little bit with the ball sometimes when he's under pressure, but the running is obviously making up.
I think
for it.
panic's harsh, but
There was a bit of throwing the ball onto the bird.
Yeah, I think so, and I think that comes back to another example of a trait that stands out. When Caleb Daniel joined the club, one of the reasons why he was put into the mix with such deficiencies from a size and shape point of view was because he was so gifted by hand and foot that we could trust that he was going to find his target every single time. And what happens when you get a player like that is, world behold, you give them the ball. And you give them the ball a lot. So suddenly their games start to be propped up by the players around them because they have a strength that's so easy to exploit from a positive point of view. And you protect them from the positioning that later on in his career, teams started to target him for, which was essentially no matter what happened, everyone was just dragging Caleb to the deepest position and making him play on someone who was bigger, stronger, and could mark the ball. And Caleb always used to fight above his weight and above his size, but there's limits to what you can do at 164 centimetres and 67 kilos.
I remember him playing on Jared Roughhead and it not going well.
Yes, exactly. And I think this is one of those things where the opposite is also true. So even Sam Darcy in his first 2 years, this guy is a generational talent for us. And I can say that because I've seen a few guys come through that were talked about, including myself. Like that. His one wood, what he is expected to do, his marking capability is so much better than everyone else's. His body's so built for it that he's going to be a superstar. But when he came in, he didn't have the engine. And he still, to a degree, doesn't have the engine that he needs to dominate every
Chaz did make that observation.
I did mention that like
on the weekend.
Yeah,
like, he still doesn't have the.
That he gets around. I mean, like when he's near the ball, he has the ability to get to the ball, but between plays, he runs around like a dinosaur. He really does lumber around a lot.
He looks injured half the time.
But it's one of those things where if you think about that, and this is a great outcome of watching the game live, and you notice that, you go, you should have actually more respect for how he's playing, because essentially what you're saying is he's getting to 10 contests a game and he's winning 8 of them.
Yeah.
And he's kicking goals from 4.
Yeah.
That's essentially what I see. The only thing I would say is that I have been quite impressed by his ruck work, because that is a real test of engine. And he's been much, much better in the 2 games that I've watched this year in how he competes in there against really good players compared to where he was previously, which was kind of like people just moved him out of the way.
I agree with that. And also the other thing I'd add to that, and this is a little bit overlapping with one of the things I'm going to be bringing up later on, his post-clearance work.
He's quite good,
Contested possessions, really good. Like, he's the best in the team.
Yeah, it's quite good. It's quite good in close. It's just the lumbering bit happens when the ball leaves sort of like, 3 or 4 meters either side. It's sort of like the basketball shuffle, which I was really good at. And then it's about having the energy and the fast feet to get out of there, that was actually quite a strong part of my game. He hasn't quite got that next 5 or 6 meters after that. He's sort of like he uses his length, if you will.
And I was just going to say one thing which I didn't realize until I saw live again. And like I know, we love the club and everything. I will say one slightly negative thing, which I didn't realize until I saw it live, which is the thing about Tim English.
Yep.
He gets hit outs. It's not like he doesn't get hit outs, right? But the thing is that in a contest, he's very easy to push out, to keep out of the contest. I've noticed, which
in a marking contest.
Yeah, marking contest. Like I noticed a number of times when people just put a hand on him, he doesn't push back.
Yeah, so I'd say it's actually less so a Tim's easy to move. Tim's actually very similar to me, where Tim relies on running and jumping to mark the ball, which is always really, really difficult to do, because if that's the way that you mark, and this is the greatest challenge I had in my career, is then you have to get separation for every single contest. Otherwise, it's so easy to push someone with momentum, just to edge them under the ball or to keep them from moving, because they have to get a big run and jump and generate a lot of energy. Whereas I think the thing that impresses me about Sam is Sam's very comfortable being flat-footed because he's so big and he's so long and he plays so high, which sounds crazy and simple and obvious, but it's really difficult to play with your arms full stretched out and have soft hands and be able to mark the ball like he does. And so he gives himself the opportunity to run and jump, but he can also play flat-footed and just play the height and reach game, which Tim is not as good at. I'll also say that since Tim signed that big deal, basically, he hasn't threatened as a forward and in the marking arena, I would say, anywhere near as much as he did in leading up to when he signed that deal.
He used to be one of our most accurate players and
he used
missed
to
a pivotal set shot in the final quarter.
Every game he would go down there and take a mark or two, right?
Yep.
Is that a thing though? I mean, like as an ex-player, is that a thing where you're conscious of your contract? Because commentators always talk about it. They go, oh yeah, as soon as you sign your contract, you're easy. You know, like stringer or something like that. But
I would say it's probably so. I never had that, just to be clear, because I played under contract, signed a contract. Yeah. I would say it's more like what would I say? I'd say it's more similar to you're running a race and you're running to an end point, and that end point is when your deal that's currently underway is done. So I think Jason Johannesson had an amazing career year before he signed his deal, and you just are on a roll, and if you've got momentum and you're running towards something, everything's going right, you're like, there's nothing to, you've got nothing to lose. And then you sign the deal and it's kind of like, okay, well now I need to reset and go again. And I think that's more what happens. It happens in every major sport in the world. It happens in basketball, it happens in NFL. Career years or contract years are something that's talked about in every major professional sporting environment, because there is a psychology that exists, whether subconsciously or consciously, where people go, I'm running towards a goal and I want to achieve it. And once I achieve it, now I need to find a new thing to run towards, which is not always that simple.
Yeah, I know. There's a policy at Celtic, the soccer team. They only give the coaches 1 year contracts, at all times. So you've got to win the league, or you're gone.
Well, I mean, the real impressive players, like if you think about Scott Pendlebury. Scott Pendlebury has signed 2 to 3 years deals his entire career, and he's been playing for 20 years. And one of the reasons when I heard him speak about it was he likes that. He likes the being on the edge of needing another contract and never having comfortability and like long-term...
Comfort.
That's right.
Comfortability is a word.
We'll roll with it.
Isn't comfortability a word?
It is today.
You just say comfort.
Yeah.
Well, let's have a look, shall we?
I'm feeling uncomfortability right now.
Because if I is not a standard English word.
Yes.
The state of being comfortable.
English is a living language, Tom. It's okay.
Yeah, it's evolving all the time.
Can we take a vote if we include it in the English language as of today?
I'll allow it. Absolutely.
Okay, great. 3 votes.
Yeah, after Tom says
Huzzah.
a word, it's in English language as far as I'm concerned.
He never wanted to be comfortable.
Feel the comfortability. I think that's the way. Anyway, it's a perfectly cromulent word.
He never wanted to be comfortable with having a long-term deal that meant that he didn't have to worry about his future. He didn't have to strive towards that next goal. And look, it's worked pretty well for him, I would say.
Damn straight. All right, while we're talking about the English language, before we get into Chaz, there is an update on the Sam Davidson nickname saga. Because, I mean, the obvious thing would be to call him Doc. He gave up his medical career to play football, but we've already got a Doc in Taylor Duryea. So, and, you know, I was thinking about calling him Newbie, which is what Dr. Cox calls JD and Scrubs.
Double D would be good.
Double D, as
Dr. Dave.
Dr. Dave, that's not bad. But I did get a text from a non-Bulldog supporter, guy I used to work with at Channel 10, who's a Richmond fan, but he was just going, oh my God.
You can basically name him now because everyone's got a...
David Hurley, yeah, there you go. Good on you, Dave. Well, he's a camera operator, he's a nice guy, apart from the Richmond fan, but he was saying, oh my God, you've got Steve Buscemi playing for you. And... Sam Davidson is quite Buscemi lookalike. I mean, it's not the Hollywood actor you want to be compared to, but he's a good look. You know, he's a great, fantastic character actor. So maybe Mr. Pink could be. That's his most famous role from Reservoir Dogs. Came out 2 years before. This is I'm so glad you're here, Chaz, because normally my pop culture references are just so over Boydie's head. Because not only is he 13 years younger than me, but he's also
he's looking up Steve Buscemi right now.
He is.
I know him because he's in The Sopranos.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
He doesn't have blonde hair.
I was going to say. I mean, I can see what they're talking, what David's talking about with the Steve Buscemi, but given that his most prominent physical attribute is his shock of blonde hair. Yeah. And Steve Buscemi clearly does not have a shock of blonde hair.
But there is a bit of the eye.
As I'm saying, there is a bit. The face is Buscemi.
But that's also, if you're talking about good lookalikes, if the comment is, your face looks like Steve Buscemi, that's not a compliment, I would say, because he always kind of looked like a lizard. And in fact, isn't Steve Buscemi, isn't he, he's the Monsters, Inc. character.
Randall.
He's Randall, isn't he?
He is. Yeah.
And he didn't. I don't even think they used animation. I think it was just they just plugged him in.
All right. His most famous roles, according to Google, are Grown Ups. I mean, that terrible Adam
That's
Sandler
not
film.
his
No,
most
we're getting rid of
famous
that.
role. What are
Con
we talking
Air, where he
Con
plays
Air,
like
definitely, Con
what's
Air.
that character's name?
Isn't
Where
that,
he's like
isn't
the
that a
worst
Nick Cage
villain.
movie? No.
Yeah.
Con Air's
But Shen is
fantastic.
one of the criminals.
And he's like the worst, the one they're all a bit afraid of.
Yeah.
Reservoir Dogs plays Mr. Pink. He's
Yes,
in
very good.
Armageddon, Fargo, Big Lebowski. Pulp Fiction he's in for one scene, but we're not going to do that.
Well, as you go down, they become less important roles.
They do, yeah. We're getting into Airheads, which is
That's a pretty good top 7 or 8, though.
Hell yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So we could
absolutely.
go Donnie from Big Lebowski. In Fargo, he's... I can't
The
remember what
movie
he's-
Fargo or
The
the
movie
sh-
Fargo, yeah. He wasn't in the TV show.
Just to leave Buscemi aside for a second, though, I was going to say
Yeah,
that
there's a few other options. We don't have to. We're not set on this.
No, this is an ongoing
There's
discussion.
a saying in business: we're dating the idea. We're not married to it.
No,
That's
yeah,
right.
I was going to say that like the hair is the most prominent aspect of it, and look, I wouldn't suggest we nickname him based on this, but actually the player who he most reminds me of physically because of the hair bobbing around all the time is actually a young Sam Mitchell. Like remember when Sam Mitchell first started, like there was
wispy sort of.
yeah, just the hair flopping around everywhere all the time, the big floppy blonde
It's a bit
mop.
tough to name him after a player from another club, isn't it? Though.
But I'm not suggesting
Considering
we
they're
do.
both called Sam.
I think we elevate DeRay to a newfound position as
We upgrade.
Chancellor of the hospital or something. I don't know.
Chief of Medicine.
Chief of Medicine.
Sure,
There you go.
why not?
Make
All
him
right.
Chief of Medicine, and then we make Dr. Dave.
So we call Taylor DeRay Chief.
Chief, he's going to hate that.
Well, look, this isn't locked in, but just talking about how much he looks like Sam Mitchell, we are looking very Aryan these days. Leith Vandermeer, Tim English, Sam Davidson, Dolan.
But Rory Lobbs exited the Aryan
Yes.
race. So
But it's seriously, sometimes we're children of the corn.
it is. Well, I don't know. If there's like a certain deal with peroxide out in the western suburbs of Melbourne, but someone's making a fortune. Is this like one of those like tobacco wars things where they're selling cheap peroxide in one of the places? It's like I was telling a story about obviously how far that Footscray's come and our club's come, and we're so different. We're so much more sophisticated. We're so much more wealthy. And then I said, but just to bring us back down to earth. On the opening night, the first ever function held at the brand new Whitten Oval, $75 million facility, there was a fire that you could see through the windows in Footscray, which apparently was one of the tobacco wars things
Brilliant.
that they'd burnt up. So from the third level, I could see fire looking straight out towards Barclay Street.
Just to remind us of Footscray's
Yeah.
origins.
You might be in the bubble, but we're still here,
Actually, just before we go, Chaz,
Yeah,
this is just
you're
a
right.
final thing. One of our Frode, one of our active listeners in
Frode.
Miami, he sent me a great
star.
picture of. Did you ever see Romper Stomper, Boydie?
No.
So, do you know what it is?
No.
It's one of Russell Crowe's first films, set in Footscray, where he plays
Oh,
a
yes,
neo-Nazi.
I do know this, yeah.
Very violent, but look, spoiler alert, doesn't go well for Russell Crowe's character. And at the very end, the final shot is his dead body, and he's wearing a Footscray
Yes, you have told me
wind
this before.
cheater. But he sent me that screenshot, and he goes, "We should post this next time after a bad loss."
Yeah. You know what we should do? We should. Is it the Norwegians who have that really stinky fish that they eat?
Well,
Yes, it is the Norwegians. Yeah, the
Should we ask
fermented
him if-
shark. Yeah.
Apparently, it's banned in most places in the world because it's
Just of the smell.
The smell is so bad. It's actually been one of those things that's permeated internet culture as like a punishment.
Oh,
You have
really?
to try and eat this if like this game show doesn't go the way. Apparently, and there's a couple of boys who got it in who do pranks up in Queensland, I think, and they took it into a school or like a university and ate it in the library and tried to do it silently, and then like the whole school stunk like fish for a month.
All right, Chaz, let's get to your stats.
Wait,
Okay.
I should say one more thing.
Oh, one more thing.
Yeah.
One more thing.
Yeah.
This is not a new topic. This is just an update for all listeners. We are doing a gather around
Oh,
watch
yeah,
along
yeah.
party next week, and I would say it's not the perfect game, but geez, if we win, it's going to be the greatest watch along ever. We are playing Brisbane,
Yeah.
and they're pretty good.
At Norwood Oval, undefeated. We are at Norwood Oval.
neutral grounds.
Yeah.
In fact, I would say it's probably better for us than them. Maybe.
Do you know the
Given that
capacity
they're-
is 4,000?
Given that one of the Bulldogs' 26 living premiership players came from Norwood. Not that Norwood, but the other Norwood.
North Ringwood.
That's the stretch that I'm going for.
Yeah, I like
We'll
it.
take it.
The
We'll take
spirit of me will be there whilst we do a watch along. So we'll be doing it on YouTube. We're going to put details out. There'll be giveaways, live commentary.
Yes.
I'll be diagnosing all that's happening on the field. Danny will be drinking beers and probably making no sense, but it will be a fantastic. We've never done it before.
No, and you're going to have to forgive us being a bit Luddite with how we do the stream, but we're going to do our very best. But it's free to to join in. So we'd love to have you. Look, it's Saturday afternoon, so you're going to get. I think I'm trying to work out which KO commentators it'll be, but look, we'll be better than them.
And also, you've got to remember that, just to be clear for all of the lawyers listening, we're just going to be streaming us.
That's right.
Commentating whilst the game is on.
So you watch the game on TV, on KO legally, and then you also have a laptop or something showing us reacting to it.
You don't need to click on a sus link with pernicious advertisements.
We don't want to broadcast the game.
No.
The rights are theirs, but the
That's
rights to us reacting
That's right.
strictly for the Danny
We want
Boyd
to add,
listeners.
essentially, remember the press red for Ed button, which which is the press blue for us too.
Well, yeah, that works.
That's nice. Very good.
SEN have the bias commentary. They've got Lemo and Jason Dunstall doing it for Hawthorn. You got Andy Marr and Cooter doing it for We Bulldogs don't have it, and I asked someone who works at SEN why. You're trying to get myself in ultimately. You imagine you and me, Boydie, and Luke Darcy doing the actual commentary.
Oh, we dominate.
That'd be awesome, but you got to pay for it, and the club won't shell out for it.
Well, that makes sense. Yeah. And I'm not sure how, I don't know anything about anything with regards to this, but my gut tells me that our club and SEN don't get along that well.
You reckon? Why is that?
Just general,
Is that why Bob Murphy left?
Aggravating commentary, always designed to make people angry and question the club.
Is Kane Corns there, is he?
Yeah.
Shows how much I listen.
It's the Chaz. We need a jingle for Chaz. I was just thinking
That's a good idea.
Yeah,
Chaz stats.
Live jingle. That's good.
Yep.
That's good, Dan. Sing it a bit more next time, Dan, but that's okay.
Let's. Can you give us a bit of a? So, what have you broken it into? What have we got today? Have you just got a flurry of statistics that no one's going to understand?
No. This is pretty. It's more superficial than I normally go because we're only 3 games into the season, so I'm conscious of that you can't dig too deep 3 games into the season.
The Bible hasn't been written yet.
Yeah.
Just in the first couple of chapters.
I just wanted to point out a couple of things that are standing out. Just a few random things. I was looking around for big changes that seem
from last year.
Since last year to this year, and which seem to be a thing. And the most obvious one, which is not a stat based one, but it's more just an observation, is that. And this has been noted by some, but I've got the numbers here, that we are an incredibly inexperienced team this year.
Yes.
The rebuild is happening. I know there's injuries going on, but the loss of Bont and all that kind of stuff. But
Trelaw's not playing.
Yeah,
Jones
Trelaw,
has been playing. Yeah,
absolutely.
totally.
But the fact is, even the list itself, ignoring who's on the park, the list itself is the 14th most experienced list in the league.
I like that.
And I'll tell you the clubs below us in terms of experience.
Can we guess?
Richmond.
Can we guess? Richmond?
Yeah, Richmond's one, yeah. There's 4 clubs
West
below.
Coast?
Yes.
North Melbourne?
No. North Melbourne have more experience.
Are they close though?
That's because Darling.
Yes.
So
They're
they
close.
brought in 3 or 4 older blokes and they've tipped over.
Yeah.
Yep.
Who else would be in there?
Don't say Hawthorn.
Nope.
Thank heavens.
Oh, thank God.
Oh, my God.
I don't know the other 2. Or the other one. Is there one more? Is
There's
it?
2 more.
2 more.
Is it? Yeah, I'm trying to.
It's not Collingwood, is it?
Nope. They're Collingwood right at the top.
Collingwood are the oldest team ever tonight.
Really? Wow.
Beating the record of Geelong last year.
They've got, Steel Sidebottom and
Pendlebury.
Pendlebury are 4 players.
That's more than our team, yeah.
They have been playing since the 1600s.
Give it to us, Chaz. Give it to us.
Essendon and Freo are the other team.
Essendon, really?
Yeah.
Okay,
And,
let's go North, Essendon, Freo, and
no, not North. West Coast, Essendon, Freo, and Richmond are the 4 least experienced
And your mate,
teams,
Nick
and we're the
Floston.
5th least experienced team.
So if we're good this year, we are only being chased from a youth point of view by the 4 shittest teams.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, like you look at those 4 clubs and you go, we're looking pretty good compared to
Wow,
them.
bloody oath.
Boydie looks. I've never seen you this happy. You look stoked.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. Age is not necessarily a reflection of success, but it is good to be on this end of the coin with good results rather than the other end of the coin with bad results.
And can I also make the point on this, and I'll be interested on your take on this one, Tom. It might not be a coincidence, given that we have a bunch of young players, more younger players than we've had for a while, that Bevo has been more effective.
In terms of moulding the players, they're a bit more of a blank slate.
Bevo might be. I mean, if we think about what the effect he had when he first came to the club, Bevo might be a great coach for a fresh voice.
Yeah.
And might not wear so well after 8 years or 10 years or whatever.
Yeah.
And so maybe he's got a lot more fresh faces to play with, and so he's more effective.
Yeah, can I say that certainly might be the case, but the prerequisite is that the coach is not a miserable prick. And I'm not saying that Bevo is. What I'm saying is that there is, like, let me use St Kilda as an example. Ross Lyon has been a very tough operator with favourites on a list from all accounts forever. So if you've got a young team playing for Ross and you're a young player, and I may or may not have met someone whose cousin or someone plays there, and this was actually over the last few days at a conference, and I was like, "How are they finding it?" And he goes, "I don't think he's one of Ross's favourites." And I'm like, he said, "There's only 10 of them." And this is from a completely unprompted me saying, "How is he going?" And they're like, "Yeah, he's not one of the 10 favourites." So my point being is I saw Bevo and spoke to him for 5 or 10 minutes prior to the 100-year celebration when we did a photo shoot thing out at Whitten Oval. And he seems, from all accounts, he said he's the fittest he's probably ever been. His hair is yellow or blonde or whatever because he's swimming so much. Is what he tells me.
Nice.
And he seemed like relaxed, like genuinely just in his own skin, just a relaxed human being, which I understand it was a Thursday morning and they weren't training, and I get all that. I'm sure he still has the ability to scare the absolute bejesus out of his players. And in a way, head coaches in particular, need to have that ability. But if he is in that space on a regular basis, then as I've said before, Luke's ability to get the best out of players is the best that I've ever seen. But that also means that if you build a relationship where you bring the best out of them, if you're not at your best, you can bring the worst out of people as well. So it would be hopefully a reflection that Luke's in a great spot mentally. Emotionally, he's really stable. He's optimistic about the future. The team has been playing in a consistent way, which I think usually is a reflection that Luke's been a consistent coach. And I'm very optimistic about all of that.
Surely this goes back to what we were just talking about. Bevo's about to extend his contract. He's having a contract season.
He always,
Yes.
Bevo's, but he's perpetually in a contract. and what we actually don't want is the thing with Bevo is Bevo doesn't play consistent 3 quality tough games of footy. They play the absolute lights out. They play 6 perfect games, then he re-signs, then it all goes down.
Yeah.
It's not like we're in the mix. It's like we're going to win the flag. It's usually what happens in the 6 rounds before he re-signs. So I think it sounds like the club has already said that they're like, we'll just wait until the end of the year. Was what I've.
That's the way to do it.
That is what's public. Yeah.
I think 3/4 time on grand final day, that's when President Watson Wheeler just goes out into the huddle and just goes, all right, well, maybe we'll talk about your contract now.
Yeah, well, I heard that's
and they just have the negotiations, the start of the negotiations in front of the players.
So I can just give me a flashback to the 2016 prelim where Bevo comes out to me and goes, "Can you keep going?" Kylie does the same to him. Have you got enough in the tank? But no, I genuinely feel very optimistic about where Luke's at the moment.
Yeah, well, certainly, like the results are suggesting that. But I was going to say that also the last time I came out here and I was giving you the stat run, I was saying how I had this feeling that our style of play was either beginning to change or was about to change, just from what I was seeing in the stats. And in particular, I was saying how, like, until then, and this is something we were discussing last time, I was saying until then, the Bulldogs for this generation had been a clearance and then mark team. Like, win the clearance, kick out of congestion, and hopefully you got a good contested mark person.
Yeah, well,
and we'll right at the top on contested marks, and we'll right at the top of clearances.
Which is why Bevo pushed out 3 or 4 players who couldn't cover the ground because our weakness was in that other part of the game.
Now, it just so happened that this period coincided with a bunch of injuries and a bunch of losses of all our clearance getters.
Yep.
And and if you look at an individual level, You've got Libba there, who's just doing exactly the same thing as he's always done.
Yeah. McRae's now at St Kilda getting 10 clearances a game.
That's right.
Is he one of Ross's favourites?
You reckon?
I reckon Ross would like him. Obviously Bont's injured. He was the other person getting lots of clearances last year. Trelaw was the next one, getting lots of clearances, injured. Jackson McRae was the next one, gone. Riley Garcia, injured.
Yep.
Like I'm just going down the list. Right. So the only ones who got any clearances last year who are playing right now, Libba is just doing exactly the same thing. Then you got Ed Richards is now getting more clearances than last year. He was getting 3.8. Now he's getting 5.
Talks about a 5-year extension for Ed at the moment.
Good. We love
it.
it.
Makes sense. Tim English was getting 3 and he's still getting 3. Riley Sanders was getting 2.5 and he's now getting 3. That's it. That's the leaderboard from last year.
Yep.
And so the clearances, Matthew Kendy's come in. He's getting clearances.
Yep. How many is he getting?
He's getting 5.
Wow.
So that's not bad.
That's a big jump.
Yeah, like he's basically our second highest clearance getter.
Behind the greatest of all time.
Yeah, exactly. But apart from that, I mean, Joel Frazier has joined the list.
Dr. Crane.
Yeah.
Not Fridge. Dr. Crane. That's nickname jury is closed.
Fridge is already closed too. Fletcher Roberts.
Of course, yeah.
Was he Fridge? Okay. Anyway, sorry, play on.
But I was saying, apart from that, these other players aren't getting clearances, and the result is obvious. We've dropped from second on the list of clearances to 13th on the list of clearances,
and we look better.
Yeah. Well, I was going to get to this. By the way, do you want to guess who the worst team is for clearances? By a mile.
Essendon.
By a mile
Essendon.
this year.
No, it'd be a good team. I think is to fit the narrative.
Oh, Carlton?
Probably. No, probably Hawthorn.
Demons.
Oh, okay, well that's all right. They're terrible.
No, I know, but you wouldn't associate the Demons with being a bad clearance team.
Well,
would you?
yeah, only because I haven't watched them play this year. But the highlights that I've seen have been basically Clayton Oliver chasing us, which is and with someone else getting the ball. But see, I think this gets back to Chaz. We spoke about this last time, and I'll be quick here, but. The stats matter less than what the identity of the team is, and the identity of the team should reflect certain things that are consistent, right? So, for instance, Hawthorn, they liked losing clearances for a long time during the period where they won 3 premierships in a row because they were so confident of putting pressure on the ball would go up in the air, we'd mark the ball, and they would just pick the opposition apart, and everyone would be out of position, right? If you attack from defence, and especially like high up the ground defence, like at half back, there's no time to defend. There's no time to get your structure in place. There's no time to get a zone. And the Bulldogs were really, really strong at that for a long period of time too. So I actually think it's a good thing that we're probably going a bit away from it.
I was just going to say that the next step is just after the clearance and the post-clearance, which I teased before, the post-clearance contested possessions, we used to be the first in the league by a long way. Now, this year, we're 14th. And I'll tell you who the player... I mean, Sam Darcy is very good there. Someone else who doesn't get talked up a lot about that, but is very good there is Vandermeer. He's basically our second best after Darcy in that area. But the one person who used to be really good, who's missing, you'd never guess in a million years, is Ugle Hagen.
Right.
Oh.
He's actually really good in that area.
Right.
And it's the... Lob is pretty good in that area too, and Norton is pretty good in that area as well.
Which is essentially post-clearance contested possession. So, but that can be offensive or defensive, I message. So this is essentially taking a contested mark, basically, or getting a contested possession when the ball gets kicked forward, or vice versa, intercept possession. That's a contested possession post.
Yeah, but I was just going to say that we've dropped off that as well, which means our style of play is completely different now.
Yeah,
our style of play is, as you say, it's looking better. The result of that is that we are a much more free-flowing team. It's not so much stop, mark, stop, possession. And the result is, you look at our scoring, we've moved from a forward half scoring team to a defensive half scoring team.
Yep.
Like just this 3 games so far, we've moved from second in the league in forward half scoring to 9th in the league in forward half scoring, and from 14th defensive half scoring to 5th defensive half scoring.
Yeah,
which is more like Hawthorn.
Yeah, and it's more like the Bulldogs, what we used to be like.
Oh, there you go.
Because we used to play a lot of the game. Like our game was to keep the ball consistently going in and out of our forward 50, tie the defenders down, play from in front, attack quickly. But what tends to play out when you play that way is that you actually turn the ball over between essentially halfway and the 50-metre arc-ish. Yep. And in that part of the ground, you've got all of the room and you have none of the congestion. Whereas if you turn the ball on the arc at the other end at the forward half, then you have all of the congestion and none of the room. And so teams can just essentially park 18 players in that part of the ground, wear you out, and then it's just when you start relying on the Nortons, the Jamaras, the Tim English, the Sam Davidson to have to take a mark to kick a goal. Whereas now you look at it and we can score in so many different ways. Because I think it's as much of the game plan is about who does the things that we need them to do, but it's also about what it restricts in terms of development from the other players on the ground. So we've spoken about a lot of times. One of the great weaknesses of the Bulldogs has been our greatest strength, which is that we had a midfield that no one else got near. And what happened in we never talk about 2021 is those guys came up against a midfield that were even better at it than they were. We didn't have a second string. We had nowhere else to go other than just go, we're just going to keep throwing Bont and Libba and Treloar or English or whoever was in there at that stage against guys who are actually playing better football at the exact same thing. So I think this gives us much more diversity across the ground. I think it actually develops a lot of our young players. If we've got the fifth youngest list in the league, that by definition means that we need to expose as many of those players to the ability to learn quickly and develop their games to be usable, because otherwise we're going to flounder with guys that are basically excluded from developing, which happens again at other clubs that are quite young, where the coach just goes, no, I can't rely on them yet. I'm not willing to take a risk. So as long as Bevo's continuing focuses going, we need to get more of those players capable, we'll be absolutely fine.
And to back up what you're saying right there, actually, what I was about to say is actually just consistent with what you just said, which is wonderful. Although people are going to hate this because they want you to shit on me, is that
this is very nice. I don't like this.
Is that if you look at the marking, contested marks, we've gone from first in the league to ninth in the league. Intercept marks, we've gone from third in the league to 16th in the league. But you're right. It's because we don't need to as much as anything because we've got other strings to our bow. And the positive about this is that our accuracy, our shooting accuracy has improved a lot. And it's because most of our goals are coming from 10 metres in front of, dead in front, running into the goal. Because we're becoming that kind of team. Like how many times have I been on here and we bemoaning our goal accuracy?
For every year for the last 7 or 8 years.
Yeah, and they're like, and we've gone from last year we're 15th, now we're 6th, and it's basically 8 points, so 8% better goal accuracy, and I think that's the reason why.
Yeah.
I think it's part of the game style.
Yeah, well, you can think about how many of the goals that I can even recollect in the last 2 or 3 weeks that have been from 15, 20 metres out or on the goal line or in that sort of little wedge that we always used to go from, which is essentially 45 degrees out either side, out to about 30 metres. That's what they would call that's where you don't miss. That's where, goal kicking averages go up to 75%. That's where you want to be shooting from. And it's as much about the ability to get the ball in there versus, in the past, how many times did Jamara or Darcy or Norton mark the ball on the boundary line in a contest? And you go, great mark.
Yeah.
How are you going to score from there?
Yeah, totally.
And there's no ability to straighten the ball up because there's 40 people or 38 people, 36 people, quick maths, in the forward 50 at that one time.
Now, I don't know if this next one is consistent with what we're talking about, or if it's just because we've lost some accumulators. But the other thing is our possessions have dropped.
Yeah, accumulators aren't typically the way that you get high possession counts from a team point of view.
Yeah.
Usually the way that teams get a lot of possessions is handballing a lot.
Okay, well, it's just a fact that both contested and uncontested possessions. Last year we were 4th and 3rd. Now we're 9th and 9th.
Yep.
And it's noticeable that we are in the pack for possessions. And we used to be a high possession.
Yeah, and
team.
don't get me wrong, when you have high possessions, you have accumulators. Like that's an obvious thing. But it's typically more about, are you willing to put what they would call the ball in motion, which means that you're going to generate handballs, generate short kicks, generate run, generate carry, and just move the ball around. Like remember when we used to get, we were number 1 in the uncontested marks by an absolute street because we would just kick and kick and kick and kick and kick, and then we get nowhere, and defense would be full, so we kick and kick, and we just keep doing it until we turn the ball over, and everyone goes, but you had 420 possessions of the game. But we lost by 3 goals. And it would be always so, it's on a psychological level. From a fan point of view, you go, we've had the ball the whole game, we've had the most inside 50s, and we're losing. It's like there's something that breaks in your brain and goes, why is this happening? And you start going, they're just making too many mistakes. It's usually not that. It's usually just that the game plan is reflective of trying to maintain possession, which is really hard to score from. And on the flip side, you get the ball in quality areas and you take 2 or 3 possessions to get the ball up the ground from halfback. I think,
So it sounds like, Chaz, like if I didn't know the results, all these stats sounds like things are going badly.
Well, yeah. If you just looked at marks, possessions, clearances, we're down on everything.
But things are going well.
Yeah, it's just the style is changing so that those stats aren't as important.
What would you say our game plan is right now?
Well,
Boydie?
all what you just said, what both of you just said, is that stats don't mean anything.
Absolutely.
like they're an indicator. They're a much better indicator at the individual level, I think, than they are at the team level, frankly. Because at the team level, it's so difficult to know, and there's always fluctuations and issues and stuff that pop up over the time. And there's players who have abnormal stat lines that affect the game. I think if you look at the players, like I actually really appreciate the breakdown of individuals around their clearance and those types of things, because I think it gives you an indication of who is actually getting midfield time for starters and how that has changed, because that's where you get clearances. Basically 95% of the clearances are happening, obviously, if you're around the ball a lot of the time. Game plan. What would I say the game plan is? I would say the game plan's probably been simplified a lot. Down to very much we are a running team and we're going to run and run and run and run. Pressure seems to be a big part of it. I think the fact that Latham Vandermeer is getting a game every week is reflective of the fact they want someone in there to be, in people's faces, both when the ball's not in play, but also when the ball is in play.
Watching him live was a revelation as well. Yes. He runs hard.
He runs hard. And he's also that type of player where, do you remember... I'm trying to think of who was a good example, but those types of players who aren't really supposed to get the ball much, and when they kick a goal, it just lifts the whole team, because you're like...
Especially one from outside 50,
yeah,
like
which
on
he's done.
Friday.
He's done a couple of times already this year, and it's sort of like spitting in the eye of the opposition, because you're like, this guy's kind of not supposed to be doing this, but he's also annoying the shit out of us, and he's kicking goals on us, and he's got blonde hair, and he celebrates way too hard. It's perfect. It's the kind of thing that really gets the team going. So I'd say, clearly Bevo has said both publicly and privately that we're going to prioritise leg speed and being able to cover the ground, which I think is a fundamental difference to the demographic of players that we played last year. I would say equally, we've obviously gone away from we're just a contested marking team, and I think frankly it's evident and probably in a bit of a drop off of output from Aaron, and Norts doesn't seem like the high flying player that he was, which is a really interesting problem to have at our club at the moment, because he's sitting on a whole heap of salary cap, and you've got Jones, who's about 34, who's coming off another injury. You've got not a huge amount of players to play fullback moving forward. You've got Jamara still in the wings, and we don't know in concrete what's going to happen to him moving forward. You've got Sam Darcy now taking a lot of the best defender and the ability to drag the ball to him. Where does he fit in? I think, it's one of those things where Bevo never used to want to play 5 talls. He didn't really want to play 3, to be honest. He sort of just had to. So I think he's very much gone back to a run and carry team. We're going to try and be the best and be the fittest, be the best leg speed team in the comp. And I think probably he's simplified a lot of it back from there.
I have no idea what's going on with Buslinger.
I know.
He's what, 3rd year now, 4th year?
Yeah.
He's been around for a while. Should we be starting to get worried? Because the answer to your question, I think, about what happens to Norton, I think, might be related to what happens to Buslinger. If Buslinger is the next centre-half back, then that's a very different scenario to if Jones and Lobb retire at the same time next year and we've got no tall backs.
Yeah, I think because Buslinger's 6'3"? He's not that big, right? I think there's actually quite a there's quite a high level of patience for guys in his position trying to get to being think Easton Wood. Easton Wood took forever.
That's true.
And there's plenty of Alex Keefe took forever. Obviously not at our club first and foremost, but later on.
He was terrible at centre half back for South Australia.
Yeah, that's right.
Cricket team.
Yeah, but he was at Adelaide for a while too, right?
He was. Yeah.
6'6", Buslinger.
Is he that big?
Yeah. That's 2 metres
198,
for those who aren't American.
Really?
Yeah.
So again, probably the answer is that he's probably good at quite a few things, but he's probably not strong enough to play in the game's key forwards yet. And we've got 2 guys in there who are.
Yeah, sure.
So I wouldn't be worried. I think, likely speaking, he's the next man up. But the fact that they're not playing him at the moment, again, probably comes back to Bevo not wanting to default to having too many tools.
Yeah, sure.
Would be my guess.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and look, I think a lot of this is back to Bevo going back to his roots of what worked really well for him when he was winning a premiership and coming into the club and basically had priorities that were very clear. It certainly went away from that from a while. There was two major things that it went away from, which I've said time and time again on this podcast. One, he went away from being a really small team with a couple of agile and manoeuvrable tools like me and Ruffy or me and whoever else, or like Tim English by himself. And he also went away from it being a team versus a team game to a no, we can only rely on our stars to play in the middle of the ground. Yeah. And I would say there's a very, very good chance that Bevo lived and died by the sword of saying, hey, how did our centre clearances go? Did we win them or did we not? Because that's what our measure of success as a team is. It seems like he's let that go to a degree.
Yeah.
So I actually think, it's early in the year. Let's be clear. We've played one really good side in Collingwood and we've played two middle-of-the-road sides, I would say, so far. We've got another sort of lower-end side this week, which is not going to probably tell us a lot as long as we get across the line and play a good game. And then we're going to come up against a really, really good midfield and a team in Brisbane that cover the ground very, very well.
Yeah, but I think Norwood Oval's quite small, so that could, suffocate them a little bit. I mean,
but regardless, like it's just in terms of quality, they're probably going to be the most quality side we've played outside of Collingwood. Yeah. And then you get to a point where you've played 5 or 6 games, you played against 2 really good ones. We're going to know a lot more from a statistical point of view. And also, by the way, how Bevo's going to go if we start losing a couple or we have a couple of off games. Because the one thing that's certain about young players is that young players aren't as consistent as older players.
Yeah.
It's just
so we are due to have a bad game, and Freo is the sort of game that we would drop. However, in the Age this morning, only one person has tipped the Bulldogs. 13
Really?
tipping Freo, which is quite surprising.
Over there?
Over there, yeah, sure, and our injuries and all that. But
we often play well
yeah, since we got Lob, I don't think we've lost to him.
That's right, yeah. I was going to say as well, I think the other thing which we should just get used to is just how our games feel different to what they used to because our style has changed. Like, Danny, when I was sitting next to you and in the Carlton game, I remember we were talking going, it feels like we're getting absolutely tanked because the ball is coming out of the centre to them really, really easily in the first half. The stats didn't actually suggest that, but it just
Collingwood felt that a bit as well.
Yeah, it just looked like that, but they weren't scoring, and they weren't scoring because we were set up for that. I mean, Buku's doing well.
Like Collingwood in that first quarter, it felt like they were about to break us, didn't it?
Yeah,
like it really did. It felt like we was like, they're going to kick 2 or 3 quick ones here, and it's all going to be over.
Yeah,
that's really what it felt like. And
waiting for our patented Bulldogs nap.
And I think maybe, and I obviously wouldn't recommend this to the coaches and the players, but maybe as supporters, we go a bit more on feel for the time being because we don't know what we have yet. We don't know if these young guys who've come in, Dolan and Davidson as an example, have come in and have started really well, are going to be the same players in 6 weeks. They talked about, I got asked to.
Well, Dolan won't be in the team in 6 weeks, presumably.
Yeah,
because when the players come back, they're in his position.
Yeah, maybe.
Nah, play Bond through the twos. Make him earn it.
No, but like you take someone like, because obviously Cody will come back at some stage, but Cody's a very different player. Like they're trying to get the mix of those blondies that we've got down there, right?
Cody's the head of the children of the corn.
Really, really interesting. But I also think it's important to remember that we've got a team that's sort of trying to build its identity again, and I think if we go on feel for a while and we see whether we feel like we're getting closer is probably not a bad thing, at least leading up into the bye, and then we can start criticising the shit out of it.
Go by the vibe. It's Marbo. It's everything. With Cody, apparently he had surgery again through the week, and a few of my mates have asked, why is Cody, if you look at the injury list, he's indefinite. Now, Boydie, you were telling me the thing that's wrong with Cody's knee is actually he had a second patella.
Someone said he's got like 2 kneecaps or
something. Something we've heard. But the reason he's on indefinite is because no one's ever dealt with this before. So he's had to have one removed from this is all hearsay.
This is not like 2 equal sized ones, just to be clear.
Oh, there was a junior one.
If you had, do you reckon people would have noticed if he had like 2 kneecaps that are like both the same size?
Mate, I'm just lost in his eyes.
He would have looked like a Crazy Bones character from when I was a kid.
See, now I don't know that reference.
Yeah,
Who's Crazy Bones?
Later. Crazy Bones. They're kind of like you kind of played marbles with them, sort of. You sort of set them up and they're all different shapes and colours and you could collect them and then you flicked them and try to knock them over, sort of thing. Okay. Very cool. Very cool.
Okay, they look like little monsters in my pocket sort of thing.
That's sort of exactly.
Yeah, all right.
So, but it'd be really interesting to see what happens when those, because I'm not hearing great things about our other injuries as well, to be honest.
Really?
From sources who may know things, that things have been a bit slow with the big fella and a couple of others. So we spoke about this. I can't imagine whoever this person is, and I'm not here to throw people under the bus, whoever this new high performance person is having a lot of really good sleep.
Yeah.
Because it has been about as bumpy a start to being a high performance manager at an AFL club as you can imagine. And you got to remember, we've had the same crew in there for about 8 years.
Yeah.
So it's all new.
But also, we're running our games really well.
Yeah.
But
but this is the thing. So is that a function of the players who have got leg speed, they're younger and they can do it, and they just need to run enough in preseason? Or is it a function of they actually trained those guys really well and they just stuffed it up for all of our best players?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's not like I said to Bon on the 100-year reunion on the ground, I said, mate, I didn't even realise you had soft tissue. I thought it was all just hard tissue in there. Because he's never, he's played with soft tissue and he's on the sidelines. He's probably going to be a bit longer by the sounds of things.
Well, so we should wrap it up. This Sunday, where will you folks be watching? I mean, Chaz is down here for, watching shows at the Melbourne Comedy Festival. How many shows have you seen so far? You've been here a week?
I've been here since Friday, and I have watched about 35 shows so far.
You're a machine.
Any good ones? Must sees?
There've been some good ones. I reckon Bron Lewis was really good. And anyone called Bronwyn is good.
Yeah, Bronwyn Cuss.
Bronwyn Cuss is very good as well.
Great comedian.
So
but due to the nature of this pod, you can only recommend comedians that go for the Bulldogs. So that's Ivan Aristeguieta is very good. So I've got him as a Bulldog.
Sure. Is Will Anderson got a show?
Will's doing a show. He's doing an improvised show. What you're talking about, Will. So goes.
And how have yours been going? Dom?
Very good. Did the Ukraine fundraiser, and we've raised about $14,000, which is pretty sweet.
Holy smokes!
Yeah. Very good.
So,
what's the local currency over there?
The hryvnia.
What's the hryvnia currency at the moment?
Yeah, that's a good call. Let's go 20 billion.
So we raised 20 billion for Ukraine.
20 billion.
That's great.
It's the US, then it's you.
And I'll be on top very soon. So do you have any, listen to Planet America if you want to know what's going on.
Yeah, Pet Podcast if you really want to go nerdy. And other than that, you'll probably hear me screaming somewhere in Melbourne on Sunday night. I've left 2 hours free from the comedy viewing so I can watch the game in the pub.
All right, sweet.
And I'll be screaming loudly.
Yeah. I'll be watching from here. My wife will be out doing something.
Here at the Casa del Boyd. We're up in the Upper Western Conservatory here.
That's right. The astronomy tower.
Right next to the room of requirement.
Yeah, exactly. Well, didn't that lady there, what was her name? She got possessed by Voldemort in the Divinity Room.
Ginny Weasley. Oh, Professor Trelawney.
Trelawney.
Yes, Sybil Trelawney.
Sort of reminds me of Chaz.
She didn't get possessed by Voldemort. She saw the prophecy that Voldemort was trying to get. Okay,
right.
let's.
Last thing, Chaz. If there's one player who has got a lot of upside from a statistical point of view, who would it be?
I reckon the player which every time I look at the stats, I'm surprised at how effective they are in areas that are important as opposed to like possessions and stuff.
Yep.
Is Riley West. I think he is an underrated player.
Actually, he did some very magical things off the ball on Friday night that you only would have seen live. He's fantastic.
He's a bit like the Tassie Devil from Looney Tunes. He just based on size and shape and the fact that he's just always on top of his feet. He's a real sort of barometer player for us, I reckon.
Yeah, good call.
That's another thing, another pat on the back for Bevo. The fact that he's playing is another good indication that we've gone for an actual identity rather than, no, these players can't fit or this has got to look like this. And, I think it's I've talked myself into feeling optimistic.
Oh, no. We're doomed. All right, you heard it here first. Freo by 10 goals on Sunday. Boydie allowed himself some hope. We're doomed.
Tip for Sunday.
Tip for Sunday. Of course, we'll win. I reckon Riley West 30 possessions. And I am going to... Lob always fires up against his old crew, but I am thinking Norton's going to be feeling some internal pressure this week.
Yep.
And in front of his home crowds, I reckon 4 goals.
Is it possible that Norton plays VFL at some stage this year?
It's possible. It's unlikely.
It's unlikely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't see it.
Really?
Can you imagine the poor VFL, Preston Bullants player?
Oh, he'd kick 11.
Suddenly has to go up against Aaron
Just
Norton.
walks out and just bumps his head on his biceps. I would say Bulldogs by 6 goals.
Nice.
And headline in the West Australian Monday morning is where to next?
No, it'd be Docker Shocker.
No, yeah. Where to next for what's it? Sumich, isn't it?
Longmuir.
Longmuir.
Justin
Longmuir and the Dockers.
Longmuir home. Longmuir in the
I don't
mirror.
need an actual punt. I'm just saying where to next for Longmuir and the Dockers.
Yeah.
I reckon he's under the pump.
I've always said he looks like Mark Ruffalo, the actor who plays the Hulk. So
Except
maybe
he's very big.
They'll Photoshop.
Mark Ruffalo's probably 5 foot.
Well, that's when he's turning into the Hulk.
No.
So it'll be a Photoshop AI of Justin Longmuir as the Hulk.
Maybe. I actually genuinely do think we are going to win. So I'm just saying this because I'm on the podcast. But my take, my prediction is that I think Norton's going to have another bad game, sadly. But I think that there's going to be a lot of midfield goals this week. I think our midfield are going to do it. But we will see.
That all sounds good to me.
All right, lock it in. We're going to win. And you're
Watch
going to...
along party.
Watch along party.
Next
So
week.
Saturday afternoon against the Lions, just live on my YouTube, at Danny McGinlay on YouTube. You'll be able to see everything and bear with us. We will be doing our best, but there's prizes and hopefully there should be chat. So we'll talk to you then.
I gave my childhood to that roar of the red, white and blue sea, and the knowledge that you had to love the Bulldog boys and me. 20 years on, I feel that longing hanging in September air. But the reason I go every week is to pretend you're still there, and they will find the glory one day, and I will throw it at your feet. It's a long, long road they're running for you, the dogs of Footscray streets. It's a long, long road they're running for you, the dogs of Footscray streets.